Hi, I'm Dougie Lux, and welcome to my cabin, Wabi Sabi. Today I'm going to be telling you about some opportunities I have to just chit-chat. This is one of my favorite topics. In fact, this hat is full of some of my favorite topics. I'm going to just dip in there randomly, and what I'm going to be offering is hour-long phone calls to discuss any of these topics or anything else that you can think about. And right now I'm offering a limited time deal that if you sign up for this, you also get a signed book, my new book, The Motorcycle and the Molecule. So without further ado, let's dip into this hat of mystery and intrigue, and let's see what's in there. So, first of all, we'll shake it up. Got like 10 topics in here, so this should be fun. All right. Oh, great one. Branding, web design, mailing lists, and social media. I happen to be pretty prolific at almost all of those things, having created dozens of websites. I also know how to build websites so that people can update them themselves, or I can advise you on platforms to help you build your website, figure out what you want to do with your business, with your company, with your new project, with something that you want to sell, how to create the structure so you can update that, how to build your mailing list, and how to create your social media platforms and strategies. So that's a great one. Let's see what else we got in here. Here we got dealing with challenging relationships. And I'll just say that these calls are completely, off the record, under the radar. We can talk about anybody, anything you like. I've had a variety of challenging relationships in my life, from family to bosses to, friendships. We can talk about things about like compassion, and when sometimes saying something that's going to be a little bit tough to hear is actually the most compassionate thing you can do. And then also not saying something and realizing when you don't need to actually resolve things, and the best thing you can do for yourself is just create some good boundaries. So that's a fun one. Okay, we're going deep here. Oh, always a good one. Psychedelics. It's big in the media these days, the powerful effects of appropriate and responsible use of psychedelics. And I'll even add that sometimes the irresponsible use of psychedelics can have a powerful and, memorable impact too. So whether you are completely new to the scene or are interested in just exploring something totally new, happy to talk about it. I'm not going to be offering psychedelics, but at least we can talk about it. All right, what else we got here? Public speaking and presentation development. If you didn't already know, I've run a speaking series for about 12 years. Helped hundreds of presenters formulate their presentations, their slides, get over their fears. Some of them have gone on to speak at TED and they're rocking it. So public speaking and presentation development, happy to help. Also got some good graphic design skills that I can help with too for your slides. It's important. Telling the story is super important. Speaking of telling stories, non-monogamy and alternative relationship structures. You may have heard it's a big deal in the media these days. We're living longer. There's more choice of people than ever at our fingertips. There's more feelings of, frustration and, there's just a lot of feelings around old relationship structures and old relationship paradigms, be they just romantic, be they, even marriage and whatnot. And what are new ways that people are trying and doing things? Of course, after all, if everything was working perfectly, there wouldn't be a need to try new things, but it seems like a lot of things aren't working perfectly. So it's at least open to good exploration and conversation. Got a few more here. Big one. Community living and co-owning property. Both are a big dream these days. We've been living in isolated little bubbles, creating our tiny kingdoms in which we don't have to deal with anyone's crap and no one has to deal with ours. And in doing so, a lot of us feel a little disconnected and lonely. A lot of people are thinking community might be the answer. Well, maybe it's right for you. Maybe it's not. It's at least definitely worth exploring and talking about before jumping into. Unless you're like me and you just love to jump into crazy things. But nonetheless, community living and co-owning property, I've been doing it I've been living in community since I was 8, and recently, the last few years, bought a large piece of property in Southern Oregon with a bunch of crazy characters. And the amount of insights that we've got from that experience, I would be happy to impart about the best practices and maybe some of the not best practices. Hashtag van life. I have had a VW camper van for almost a decade. It's enabled me to have a rather crazy lifestyle and a bit strange, and no doubt it's one of the reasons I now found myself in a cabin in the wilderness of Oregon. That said, now a lot of people are doing it, and there's definitely right ways to do it and wrong ways to do it. It has its perks, it has its challenges. I've definitely explored a lot of different ways of doing it and got some great tips on hashtag van life. Okay, well, no doubt, event experience, production, and design. I've probably hosted 250 events at this point. I can help with anything from like the registration and ticketing and promotion stuff to how you represent it. What even you want to do, like why even do an event in the first place? And, just in broad terms, I can talk theoretically about it and help you flesh out what you're wanting to do with your event series or with your community endeavor. Also happy to connect you with people in San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, big cities, places that can help you execute your event dreams. Meditation. Been neglecting it this month for sure, but a huge pivotal part of my development from being highly frustrated, overly controlling, just completely locked in my own frenetic existence to really trying to break out of that bubble. Meditation's been a big one. Vipassana, huge impact. I've done it 2 full sits and 3 services. So I'm still not enlightened, but I'm working towards it diligently. Sometimes I could be working towards it more diligently, but working on it. Speaking of which, life hacking, behavior modification, and diet tools. I love quantifying my behaviors, figuring out how to, I can be more effective with what I do, how I do it, ways of actually creating new behaviors, substituting old behaviors for new behaviors. Also, diet's a big one. I struggled with weight all my life, and in the last couple of years, I've lost 1/4 of my body weight. For the first time, managed to pretty much keep it off. Although this month it was my birthday and there was some decadent behavior for sure. Creativity, another favorite one of my topics. I went to Rhode Island School of Design, and fostering creativity was one of the number one things that was on the roster for what we did there. And how to then, after leaving school, how to keep that active in life by surrounding yourself with people, activities, and behaviors that foster your creativity, that foster your ways you interact both in your jobs, in your relationships, in your friendships, in your family, even just with yourself, how to stay creative. We've got a couple more here, down to the last couple. Oh, that's very sweet. Self-love. Oh my goodness. I used to struggle with this a lot, and I think a lot of people do. The voice inside our heads should be the most loving, friendly, best buddy, mix of like all your favorite people, from grandmas to, your friend from school when you were little, all the ones who you love the most. That should be the voice that we have inside our heads that we use to talk to ourselves. And for most of us, it's probably far off the reality. Certainly for me, it was. And I've made some great progress in that area. So I'm happy to explore the topic of self-love with anybody who'd like to talk about that. And last, but certainly not least, we have sexuality. Oh, what a great topic. One of those topics that's really often not discussed as openly as it could be in our culture. And something where probably there'd be a lot of benefit if it was. There's a lot of things wrapped around our sexuality. And untangling some of that stuff, loosening some of it up, letting the flow freely around the topic, around our own sexuality, can only have good effects. So super excited to explore that topic. Been playing with a lot of different Okay, all I'll say is that's a great topic. If you're interested in talking more about it, I would be happy to. Again, all of these conversations are completely confidential. And it's just one of those things that could be really fun. So we can set up a phone call whenever. These are hour-long phone calls to talk about any of those topics. And feel free to shoot me an email if you have any questions over at DougieLux.com. It has been a pleasure, and I will see you in the woods.